My name is Tara Ladner, and I've been in records and information management now for over a decade. And then for some reason along the way, I thought it would be a really good idea to go back to law school. And so currently what I do is I manage the corporate and records information management, the group at SunTrust. And so what we're in charge of is just what it says. We're in charge of all records and information across the bank. And I can tell you that's a lot of information here. And in the highly litigious time that we're in as a financial institution, as you can all imagine, I cross paths fairly often with our legal group and with the cases that we're involved in at any given time. And on the next slide, Melissa, what we have here is called the Electronic Discovery Reference Model. Now, you guys may or may not have seen this model before, but it is something as legal community we should get ourselves familiar with. So what it is a reference model that uses a standard for the discovery, recovery, and production of electronic data. So the premise behind it is that the data collection scheme is set up to ensure that electronic data is handled both cost-effectively and efficiently while allowing us to produce records that will prove to be trustworthy in court. So in case you haven't noticed, just in case it wasn't clear at all, I want to call out that the first step in this highly renowned model is information management. So basically this model shows you that if you can get your house in order, clean it up, lower the volume of information that you have, as you see the yellow kind of going down, then what you will need to go through is less information in order to call out what's really relevant to the case and what should ultimately be presented to opposing counsel or in support of your own case. And this is really important because, and this is something I talk to both the legal side and information governance professionals about. It's not only about finding evidence to meet the requests of the opposing side, which feels like something, especially as records managers and people who are supporting our own company, we feel like, oh, that's bad. We don't want to be good at doing that. But it's also about finding evidence to support our own side of the case. So believe it or not, legal professionals, and I kind of took a look at the attendees today, and it looks like that's what we have out there. Believe it or not, your information governance professionals in the clients that you're working with know what this model is. They know what it means. They understand how it fits into their profession, and I should say my profession. We actually get it, and that's not just because I went to law school, but most of us do get it. Now, there are some out there who have probably never seen it, and we're working hard to educate those information governance professionals so that they can become your partners in this space. So the question to my friends in the legal community today is, do you get it? Do you really and truly understand the importance of being good at this first step that you see highlighted boldly, information management? So let's go to the next slide, Melissa. This is what we tell our information governance professionals. Now, a rose by any other name, as they say. They may be called a records manager. They may be called a records supervisor. They may be called the file clerk. But believe it or not, these people know what's going on, and they understand how they fit into litigation. So when we educate ourselves in this space as information governance professionals, what we say is you really need to put in place a system of repeatable, defensible policies, procedures, and processes prior to litigation. After litigation begins, it's too late. Then what we need to do is make sure that we're giving our attorneys and our legal professionals what they need to properly discuss the request of information and know right away the impact of that request to our case. So, for example, if we worry that email within our organization is the wild, wild west and could be full of smoking guns that the opposing counsel would request, and right away they request a pile of email, our attorney knows to be armed with the right information to respond to that request. And he or she right away knows the impact of that request. But if they're not having the conversations with the right people within the organization, they don't know that. So let's go to the next slide, Melissa. So as Melissa called out early on, as legal professionals, you have a responsibility to understand technology. Now, this doesn't mean that you can text message, doesn't mean that you can make your Apple TV play Hulu, or that you can rent a movie from Redbox. What this means is that you understand where your client or your opposing counsel's client keeps their stuff, and not just some of their stuff, but all of their electronic data. Now, I'm not naive, and I certainly acknowledge that this is no easy task. I am not a technologist by any education, but I've been forced to understand it just from my day-to-day work. So data is growing exponentially minute by minute. We all know that. We all have an email box that's overflowing at any given time. And data storage devices where you can put this stuff, and the locations just continues to grow. So now there's, every trade show you go to, you can pick up a thumb drive at any given time. You can send it to SugarSync. You can put stuff in Dropbox. So it just is so many places out there that you have to know about. But you have a responsibility to represent your clients to the best of your ability. And sometimes that means understanding things you'll never thought you would really want to know about. And anyone who did go to law school probably remembers the Harry Palm case. So that's an example of things you never wanted to know about, but you had to. Anyway, the good thing here is that once you get yourself educated about technology and you get the basics, now I'm not saying you have to be Bill Gates, but you have to understand the basics, then you can use them over and over again. So I want you guys to think about this. Do you know the difference between backup and archive? Because those two words and knowing the difference could very well lose a case and result in heavy, heavy sanctions if you don't. So let's go to the next slide. So information governance professionals, meet your friends in legal. Legal professionals, meet the person who has the information you seek, both literally and figuratively. I know you guys fear that you don't speak the same language, but believe me, you do. So we as information governance professionals realize the importance of a relationship. And for those, I don't know if I have any information governance professionals on today, but for those of you out there who have tried to have a relationship with your legal team and who have not been successful, don't give up. Continue to push, because at some point they're going to realize that they need you and they're going to come around. So to my legal professionals out there, go find your information governance professional and make them your BFF, your best friend forever. You don't want to know the ins and outs of structured versus unstructured data. Who does? Or the earth-moving excitement of a retention schedule? Of course you don't want to know those things. So go make your information governance professional your best friend as quickly as you can. And so why is that important? Let's go to the next slide. So the current trend in litigation is questioning opposing counsel's production of information. And sometimes it's good, and sometimes there's kind of a fishing expedition going on, but sometimes there's a valid reason to be trying to find information that you weren't given. But as we can all acknowledge, sometimes it is a fishing expedition. Either way, the fact that this happens affects both information governance and legal professionals. And this is the time when you guys have to be in lockstep. You can't not understand each other. So for most information governance professionals who aren't comfortable in this space, they're simply scared to death of the prospect of being asked a bunch of questions. They have no idea what to expect. And in all fairness, it is a scary experience. And I think people who live in the legal world forget that if you've never been involved in litigation, it's an intimidating experience. So for that, we need your support in understanding both the experience itself and the types of information that we may be asked about. And for my legal friends, please take advantage of the fact that your information governance professional is not some file clerk who's being brought up from the basement. She or he can likely give you the goods on the current information landscape much more quickly than you would expect. So I can probably tell you guys where most information within this bank is, whether it's the good, the bad, or the ugly. And guess what else? When the tables are turned, we can help there too. So many times I sit in a deposition or receive an interrogatory that's in no way written to elicit the responses that the opposing counsel really wants or need. So it's clear to me that they simply are kind of throwing out a fishing line to see what they can catch. And sometimes that's the right approach and sometimes it's not. But they're not doing it in a fine-tuned way enough to actually get any information out of us. So these are the ones that I enjoy most because I'm kind of like that. But I'm the smart prey, and they usually don't quite expect that. So my legal staff depends on me pretty heavily whether they're responding to discovery requests or whether they're creating requests. So I guess my main message today is never underestimate the importance of that first step in the EDRM model, and also never underestimate the power of your information governance professional and how much they can help you. So this is just a kind of a quick taste of the things I want to talk about on August 14th, and I hope many of you will be there and teach me some of the things that you guys know about, because you're kind of a unique audience that I don't get to speak to as often as my own industry, and I would love a different view into this process.
Stephen?
Fantastic. Thank you, Tara.